For me in Red Square, it was a very weird experience because I don't know if you know those churches in Red Square. They have the colorful top. They almost look like a circus. The colorful top churches.
Mhm.
When we went there, that's Red Square. I was honestly I was standing looking. I'm thinking, am I really here?
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Joy,
I live in the US,
and I live in England
and we were across the world.
on a mission.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are talking about our journey across the world. And for those of you who are new to this channel, please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel and share with anyone that you think need to hear our story. Today we are talking about the layovers, right, Joy? And
Yep.
in our last episode, we talked a little bit about some of the places that we stopped in on our way to Asia and Russia.
So I wanted to know, Michelle, why did you go to Hawaii? Hawaii is one of the places I would love to visit. I haven't still obviously being in the visited the US. I still haven't been to Hawaii. Why did you go there?
So, literally, the excitement when I got my ticket and it said Honolulu, Hawaii. I was like, what? I'm going to Hawaii. And it was literally one of the stops. Well, it was my last stop on my first leg of the flight. And it was where we would have orientation. So, all of the student missionaries, English teachers that would come from the US and from the island, the Caribbean, would meet up in Hawaii and we would have an orientation as to what to expect once we got to Taiwan. This happened for me going to Taiwan, not Japan. In Japan, our orientation was going to be in Hong Kong. So we got to Hawaii and someone was waiting for me and I've heard so many stories about being in Hawaii and how you get layered with the lays, and I was like expecting a lay, um, and I got there and there was none, and I was so disappointed. I'm like, come on, people. I did not know that it wasn't just everybody who got there would get one. It was specially made by whoever would be picking you up, or
Oh,
right.
okay.
So I was expecting it and I didn't. I was so disappointed. But nonetheless, I was still excited to be in Hawaii. I was picked up by one of the leaders who took me to where we would have our orientation. Around that same time, I had my bag was destroyed. Um,
Hey.
it was torn, and by the time I got off the flight, I had a bag that I had to kind of tape up in order for me to carry with me.
Mm.
But it wasn't the worst of what we had encountered because there was another student who her bag did not arrive. So all of her belongings were gone.
Oh man.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. It's
So
that's something. Looking back now, now we have issues of bags not arriving and your all your luggage is God has been so good, because I've never, that was remember in them times anyway, you weren't even thinking of that, the possibility of
yeah,
that happening. And it's such a blessing because traveled with two bags, having so many changes as well,
right.
going to my destination as well. And I didn't end up losing a bag. So wow, God is faithful. Praise the
God is
Lord.
good. Yeah, yeah. I did have a torn bag, but the director gave me a brand new bag. And we were scheduled to be in Hawaii for 5 days.
Mhm.
So it was a good enough time to do some sightseeing and we had classes. Our classes was about just learning about the new culture that we would be going to. We'd be going to Taiwan. We learned a little bit about the culture, about our classes that we would have to teach. We learned a little bit about the food and the language. They gave us a little bit of a heads up as to what would happen. Yeah, so that's what orientation was about.
I think I basically had my orientation on the phone because I didn't have none of that. And that's where another I wish I did, but I didn't. I was thrown into the culture suddenly, unexpectedly. My director at the time, she was based in Russia, Russia actually, Moscow. And so we met later on, like about maybe 2, 3 months into me teaching. But my director at the school that I was teaching at, she was the one who basically, gave me, like a breakdown of the culture and all of that. When I went there, I didn't really have formally an orientation, if you like. So it was my experience was pretty much different from yours. Yours sounds very formal, but I was just thrown in.
It was. We literally had to sit down in like sessions where they would talk to us about what to expect, and some of them were long. We had an agape feast where we prayed with us because we
Mm.
were venturing on a mission that was a very important one, to tell others about God and to share His love, also bringing it through teaching English. And so they wanted to prepare our hearts and our minds for the process. And I thought that was pretty good. Also, we got an opportunity to meet other people that were going to be a part of this experience. So
Mm.
I met folks from the U.S., like I said, and folks from the islands, and I even met some folk from like different parts of the world.
Mm.
England, I think, was there. Some British people were there. We got a chance to kind of connect right there in Hawaii before we even got to Taiwan.
Oh
And
wow.
when I was going to Japan, we went to Hong Kong. And same type of experience where we met and had sessions. And there were portions and times where we would get to go out into the city and to kind of do some sightseeing. I remember being in Hawaii and going to the the USSR, going on Pearl Harbor and seeing that monument at Pearl Harbor. I remember going to Waikiki Beach, and those were all places that I'd heard before, and so it was very intriguing, interesting to just see a little bit
Mm.
of Hawaii and enjoy Hawaii, and the culture there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I would say I had my orientation like 2, 3 months after being there. That's when I met all the other teachers who were also, teaching in my neck of the woods. I was the only one, well, two of us. There's another person that I was with in my school in the Ukraine, but we were the only one in the Ukraine at that time teaching. And when we got to Russia, which is Moscow, we met other people who were, slotted over Russia. There were like two South Africans, no, actually three South Africans, two ladies and a gentleman. And there was another person who you grew up with, and she was all the way up, like in, I can't remember, it wasn't Kaliningrad, it was another place. She was a far way away, but we met up after, a while teaching. That's when we had, when you mentioned agape feast, that's when we had the agape feast. And also your director, who was in Taiwan with you, she was my director in when I got there in Russia. She was based obviously in Russia with the rest of them. So it was a wonderful experience, meeting everyone and connecting as well. Like you were saying, it was very good connecting. But obviously, sadly, I didn't have that initially. I was kind of thrown in, and so it's a little bit scary for me.
You got
Um,
that immersion experience where you're like just, it's
yes,
like,
yes,
it's like you've been thrown into the water and you learn to swim.
yeah,
You learn
exactly. It was literally like that.
to swim. Learn to swim. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy how we were going to different parts of the world, but yet still we were meeting the same people.
Yeah. God is so good. He's amazing. God
Ways of
is so
connecting,
amazing.
just different ways of connecting. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Hawaii. I enjoyed the experience there. I enjoyed Hong Kong. Um, I just thought one thing about Hawaii for me that I felt like it was super expensive, but it was beautiful, and I felt
Mm,
like coming from the islands, I felt like Hawaii was a good merge of the US and the islands. That's what
mhm,
it felt like. So
mhm.
it was a beautiful experience there.
For me in Red Square, it was a very weird experience because I don't know if you know those churches in Red Square. They have the colorful top. They almost look like a circus. The colorful top churches.
Mhm.
When we went there, that's Red Square. I was honestly, I was standing looking. I'm thinking, am I really here? Because this is when you're on back home, when you're watching the news, this is where you saw on TV, and I was literally standing next to those cathedrals, and it was honestly a blessing. The Bolshoi Theater that you read about in only in books, or you saw it on the news. I was literally walking outside and going inside that theater. It was amazing. It was just amazing. The Kremlin, seeing where Lenin and Stalin and all of those people that you've read about in your history books, um, where they live, where they ruled from. It was just something else. Honestly, it was something out of a movie, if you like. It was crazy. So overwhelming, the experience. So grateful, so grateful for those experiences.
Yeah. So, I would say lessons learned in this particular leg of the journey would be just seeing how God can take you out of your small world and place you in a path to do something that is so big, way bigger than you. And for you to feel that confidence, being supported by the group of people that we met there, gave me that confidence to know that I can do this. I'm not alone in this process. God is carrying me all the way, every leg, every step of the way. And as I got together with other like minded people who were going on the same journey to do the same thing, I felt encouraged, I felt confident, and I felt like God was continuing to guide. So the lesson learned is that He places people along the way to support you on that mission that He's sending you on. And if you just keep trusting, He's going to continue to lead in that way. Yeah.
Mhm. My experience, what I learned too is, though our journeys um, are different, the Lord wants us to know Him individually. Your experience cannot be mine, mine cannot be yours. And He has a way of leading us. Though we're together, He has a way of giving us, individual experience pertaining to our situation. And I see Him do that. He's God of the impossible. I didn't know I would ever, watching the news, ever stand in those places where those soldiers were standing on my own. On my own. I was alone there. And I should correct that. I wasn't alone. God was with me.
God was with you.
But
Yeah.
I didn't know I was ever able to visit those places. But with us, we limit God. But with God, there's no limitation. There's no limitations where He can take you. So if you have that drive within you, and you know that God is leading you to a particular place, just like He led us, don't doubt Him. He is able. The finances you may not see, the way you may not see. We didn't have none of that. Our tickets were paid for us, but God is able. He is able to move mountains to get you to where He wants you to be. And just to remember that once we place ourselves in His hands, He is able to take us to wherever we're going. So
Amen.
trust in Him.
Yeah. So, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you're afraid of? He's going to provide the support for you.